Despelote starts like all great games do, in a video game of a video game playing a top-down soccer game. The controls are pretty straightforward. We basically have a walk, a run, and then a big kick that we can do if we flick the right thumbstick. You know, pretty normal soccer stuff. Just as soon as we get the basics down, we load up into our first actual match, playing as Ecuador against Peru. Also, these little segments playing this game are a very small part of this game, so if this kinda isn't your thing, don't worry about it, we'll get there pretty quick. Eventually something kind of strange happens. As we're working our way down the field trying to score on Peru, we start to see some little text bubbles popping up on the left and right sides of our screen. These seem to have nothing to do with the game that we're playing. It seems like kind of just conversation that's happening in the same room, and honestly, it is super distracting. The distraction tactics aren't enough to keep us down though, as we do manage to take the ball all the way down the field and score our first goal, earning our first achievement goal as well. At this point, the camera begins to slowly pan out as well. As we get further and further away from the TV screen, we pan out and see that this is in fact a video game that we are playing on our parents' TV, which is doubled down on when our parents actually turn the game off, because apparently Ecuador is playing in some big game that we all have to check out. The TV set switches from our game to real life as we see the Ecuadorian national team score a goal. This seems like a super big moment as we see lots of players storming the field celebrating, and a character that doesn't really fit into this actual real life footage dancing around on the field as well. Now it's time for a little bit more context about what we just saw. We see now that we are in June of 2001. But the story actually starts a little bit further in the past yet. In 1996, a man named Jefferson Perez became the first ever Olympic gold medal winner for Ecuador. We see some more real-life footage of that event, and we learn that this was apparently an absolutely huge thing for the country of Ecuador. And now, 5 years later, the Ecuadorian national football team has the chance to make a similar story come true. For the first time in history, they are right on the brink of actually making it into the World Cup, with 4 games remaining to determine how likely it is for them to actually make it into the tournament. We switch back to the first-person perspective, where we find ourselves sitting in a class, getting some more information about Ecuador that I maybe should be listening to for some unforeseen reason in the future. But instead, my eyes wander over to a group of kids playing football out in the nearby park. The success of the national team has fueled a love for this sport within our player character, and it is pretty plain to see that that's what this game is going to be all about. We come to a break in our class schedule, and we get to actually go outside and play around for a little bit. This also introduces us to a super cool mechanic, a single button to say hey at any time. That's right, we're in the future now. Heading outside for the first time, we can actually really see what the art style of this game is like, and it is super strange, honestly. It's hard to compare this to really anything else that I've ever played. The closest is definitely Return of the Obra Dinn, but even that isn't quite right. This is really a unique way to display what you're trying to go for. Once we make our way down to the playground, we find that our friends have actually brought out a ball for us to play with as well, and there's a little course where we can try to get a hang of the controls in the overworld as well as we had them in the game. The controls are actually the same, except for the fact that this is 3D, and it's a little bit harder to control the ball than it was in its 2D counterpart. Eventually, our 15 minutes of free time comes to an end as the bell rings and the teacher yells at us to run back to class. So I decided to follow the other kids, but it seems like they're not actually leading me back to class. Something that I didn't realize for a worryingly long amount of time. It was basically up until this guy started lifting this fence up, actually. Having escaped the confines of the schoolyard, we head up to a nearby overlook and look down across the mountains that are the backdrop of our city, and also the city itself, before we decide to make another run for it and head towards the city proper. At least that is until the teacher catches up to us and yells at us to get back to class so hard that our vision fades out. We then enter a kind of idyllic scene where the family is cruising along in our car through the town that we were just running towards. I expected our parents to be yelling at us about trying to skip out on class, but no, they're just talking about random stuff that they have going on, like, they would any other day. After the car ride, we're back at home and we have a little bit more freedom to walk around and explore our house. There are a limited number of things that we can interact with. I try to start with getting the soccer game going again, but that doesn't really work. The main thing to do is basically just walk around and listen to conversations and other things that are going on around us. One super cool thing about this game is that it's really not super concerned with time. There are all of these conversations that we can sit and listen in on if you have the patience to do that sort of thing. I listen to a lot of it, but definitely not all of it. We sit down for our family dinner and I absolutely house the plate down, eating as fast as I possibly can. The world begins to fade out again, and I might just regret eating so fast as the world shifts into this weird green landscape where we're kicking a soccer ball around for a little bit. That brings us to August 15th, 2001. In the year 2000, Ecuador decided to change over from the currency that they were previously using over to the American dollar in an attempt to stop the inflation that was going on throughout their economy. The damage had already been done by that point though, and it didn't really stop the financial systems from crumbling. That obviously results in a lot of very unhappy citizens. But the Ecuadorian national team did manage to win their game, so the hope is still alive. Back in character view, we find that our mom is dropping us off at the park. She's going to be gone for a little bit of time and tells us not to move a muscle. And just as we go to move a muscle, she pops back around the corner and tells us, for real, do not move. So obviously as soon as she walks away, we're going to take off. Straight into the big group of pigeons that this old man was feeding. Well. We also make sure to go ahead and ruin an anniversary dinner picnic. We're in the neighborhood, so may as well just make as many enemies as possible. Turns out that a lot of our friends are actually wandering around the park today as well, so of course they have a soccer ball on them that we can go ahead and try to cause a little bit of chaos with, like taking it inside of the local corner store. Eventually, our antics get to be a little bit too much as we get on the bad side of the teacher, who we've already not super thrilled, and he's threatening to take our ball away, so I guess it's time to go for a little bit of a runaway. With the ball gone, we decide to sit down and do what all kids were doing in 2001, making a ASMR podcast. This felt a little bit weird, but I don't know, I guess so. I haven't been to Ecuador. Another super cool thing about this game is that in basically every open world section, there are actually TVs set up in local stores or on counters, places where it makes sense that we can actually sit and watch real game footage, though it is quite blurry and a little bit hard to tell what's going on. In this case, we see that Ecuador actually isn't doing too well. The game is basically over and the score is 0-2 Argentina, but Argentina was a very, very good team, so it's not super surprising. Major downside to getting lost watching those TVs though is that we definitely blew straight past the 6:30 curfew that our mom set for us, and she is not pleased by the time we return to the bench to go home. With another time jump, we're now up to the 5th of September 2001. Ecuador did definitely lose that game to Argentina, but we're still in the running for the World Cup. Ecuador's team never really had any luck until eventually they ended up signing a Colombian coach who very quickly turned around the spirit about the team and the country as a whole as they really began to get behind the team. Though there is a little bit of tragedy about the coach being shot in the leg by some gang members, so that's not all great. We arrive back at home in the first-person view and find that our mother is actually getting us ready. We're all dressed up for some big event. Once we're ready, she needs to go get ready, and she gives us just one ask. Please don't get dirty before we leave. And you know what? I'll say it. I tried. I really did. There were lots of things to do in the house, like this frog that I tried to draw, and that definitely went super well. It definitely looks like a frog and not like a boat or a shoe. I tried to watch some TV, but it was in Spanish. I don't speak that. I tried to resist, but my fate was finally sealed once my friends arrive at my front door once again, asking me to come out to the park to play, and I'm a man of the people, so what can I do? Our friends eventually lead us out to the park where the soccer ball seems to have gotten trapped in the tree. They all just hang out pointing at it, and I don't know if there was a way for me to get this down. I tried kicking some stuff at it, but I just couldn't do it, so we're just gonna go ahead and leave these guys here. You know, instead, I'd really actually much rather play with my cool older friends, the teenagers who hang out in the park and absolutely love me. Oh, they're pushing me down. They're telling me they don't like me. Oh man, oh, this is a real blow. Eventually, an absolute downpour bursts out in the park, and there's nothing for us to do but run really fast and slide straight through the mud. There's no way this can go poorly for us. We're having so much fun with our friends in the park until we hear our mom start yelling for us, so we run home and oh man, we ruined our new suit right before the big party. Ah well, what are you gonna do? Kids, am I right? It makes sense that they actually wanted us to be quite dressed up though, because it turns out that we are going to our grandmother's wedding. She isn't super happy about the fact that everyone is really paying a lot more attention to the TV than what's going on with the wedding, but we can still have a pretty good time. But the adults won't actually let us have any wine, so now it's time to kick a balloon up into the ceiling fan, which of course makes our mom quite mad. We really gotta lay off this lady. How could she stay mad at us though? I mean, look at these moves we're putting down on the dance floor. On the drive home from the party, we once again slip into another one of our weird dreamscapes, this time walking up to a teenage party where nobody seems to know or like us very much. Everybody keeps telling us to go sit with our friends, but really it seems like nobody likes us very much. It's kind of the nightmare scenario. Oh, and also our mom is here, and she's old now, so that's another pretty big mood killer to the old party. Moving back to the current timeline, we're in October now. We learn that we managed to pull out a tie against Colombia, but now it's time for us to play against Bolivia, and we really need to start getting some points down now. Things are also continuing to get worse within the country itself, so we really need this win. The gameplay section of the chapter starts with us in a video rental store where we find a absolutely beautiful copy of Shrek that we then absolutely kick across the floor. Once again, Mom's not happy, so we get sent outside. Heading outside into the park, the main attraction is definitely a hide-and-seek game that we can play with our little sister, but she very quickly steals the show with this teleportation that she's doing up on top of the statue. And it's kind of weird because she actually needs help getting down. We stay out pretty late and we manage to catch our teacher walking around at night by himself, so I try to kick a bottle at his head, but when he catches it, it turns into a soccer ball, and then he throws it back at us, but it retakes the form of a bottle and shatters on the ground. I don't really know either. We didn't really hang out with our friends too much during that day, but it turns out they've all been hanging out at our house waiting patiently for us to return to our favorite game. It turns out that the only place that you can earn achievements in this game is actually in the soccer minigame challenges at the start of the game and this midpoint of the game, so we're gonna need to do some work here. Though this is a little bit harder because people move in front of the screen a lot. For example, the entire background changes and we see that our old mother version is on the screen trying to talk to us about something that seems pretty important, but all that I can focus on is earning the achievement Golazo for scoring a goal outside of the box. We also earn the achievement El Gol del 10 for scoring in the last 5 minutes of the game, something that we did on accident, but actually seems like it would have been pretty annoying to do had we not. And once the game actually comes to an end, we earn the achievement Si Se Puede for winning the match, Invicto for not letting the other team score, and Goleada for winning by 5 goals total. After the game ends, it doesn't actually end though. We stay in this top-down view for the rest of the chapter, and we basically just walk around the stadium and then out into the open world. Eventually we end up in kind of a replica of the park that we've been playing in every day, but there's not a whole lot to do there other than progress to the next chapter. We're now in November of 2001, and it's time to get a little bit more backstory about what exactly is going on in this weirdly autobiographical game. Again, I really haven't played anything else like this. It is super cool. The creator actually jumps in at this point to say that Ecuador qualifying for the World Cup is probably their earliest memory, which is a little bit spoilers, I guess. But, I mean, come on, you could probably see where this was going. We have 1 game left against Uruguay, and we only need 1 point to qualify for the World Cup. We absolutely blew out Bolivia, so things are looking pretty good, but definitely very stressful. The next scene is quite unfortunate as we find that us and another troublemaker student have been forced to return to class to take a quiz. Maybe I should have paid a little bit closer attention to that lesson at the beginning of the game. Obviously, the answers to this don't really matter, but I did legitimately try, and I think I only got question 2 right, and the rest of them are all wrong. But, you know, I gave it a shot, what can you say? This dude just has it out for me, I think. We walk outside of the school and down into the central park, but things are a little bit different. Instead of hearing 50 conversations going on at once, we see that things are extremely empty, and as we continue walking forward, we warp into this weird Google Maps feeling version of the world. As we launch ourselves down into a giant hole in the ground, the creator of the game informs us that this is actually what the park looks like as of a 3D scan in 2024, which is actually super interesting. The park is definitely quite different from how it's represented in the game, but you can really see where it came from. With the knowledge that this is actually the real park that we've been playing in for this entire game, we launch ourselves up into the air again to get another overhead view, and this place looks pretty cool. Except for maybe these weird human-shaped blobs that are kind of melted into the stands over here. That was a little bit weird to find. It is pretty cool though that we can Skyrim our way up some important Ecuadorian government buildings though and overlook the park that we've just been running around in. After that, we get to watch the real-life clip of Ecuador scoring the 1 point that they need against Uruguay to qualify for the 2001 World Cup. Obviously, we witness an absolutely ginormous celebration out on the pitch, and you can really feel the energy coming off of the stadium, even at this low quality that you would kind of expect from 2001. Also, there was an ad running while that happened, so that's pretty funny. The final chapter of the game sees us have an 8-year jump into the future, where our character is the more grown-up version of them that we've seen in some of the visions throughout the game, like that one party scene. We also now know the outcome of what actually happened at the World Cup. Ecuador did make it, but they were very swiftly eliminated by Mexico and Italy. And even though it might feel like that was a failure, it brought hope to the people of Ecuador when they really needed it. Returning to first person, we find that we're in actually a kind of unfamiliar scene. Though we are here with our older version of our mother and an older version of our sister that we haven't seen up to this point. And the food on the plates is also looking pretty familiar too. Man, I could absolutely house that right now. Another shout out to the writing of this game. I really love how the dialogue in the side conversations really feels like it could be actually happening kind of on the peripheral of your vision at any point. Heading outside, we once again get some familiar faces, the older versions of our friends, or maybe some new friends. I don't know, but I'm gonna assume they're the same people that we were hanging out with throughout the rest of the game. They decide that it's time to go hang out, and we're kind of the old teens now, so let's head on over to the park. We head on over to one of the new fields that was built as a result of the World Cup success, and we just hang out kicking the ball around. Our characters once again talk about some pretty benign stuff, a party that they went to last week, and tests that they have going on in school. But while the dialogue isn't super important or majorly interesting, it's just so easy to actually melt into the story and feel like this is real. The gameplay is simple, the dialogue is simple, but it gives it this nostalgic feeling that it really feels like you could actually be doing this right now or in the distant past. That is, until at one point we kick the ball, and then our view goes down into ball mode view, and we start getting kicked around by our friends as well. This leads to another pretty cool scene where we get kicked all around the city and the different scenes that we've explored by some different characters that we've seen as well. I'm glad we're mostly getting launched back up into the air though, because down on the ground it was making me feel a little bit motion sick, but honestly the graphics don't really make me feel all that bad. That leads us into the credits rolling, and I've gotta say, I really did enjoy this game. And that's good too, because like I mentioned previously, the only places that we can earn achievements are during the first soccer minigame, at the beginning of the game, and the one about halfway through. So we're going to need to go ahead and hop back in and play through about half the game a second time, but that's not too bad. The first achievement that we end up going for is Listo, for scoring 3 goals during warm-up within 30 seconds of each other. This one's a little bit tricky because warm-up only happens before the first game, so there is only this 1 point that you can really get it at. The other achievement that we're going to grab during the first section of the game is called Gol de Aguero. That's wrong, I'm sorry. But anyway, in this case, we actually need to grab the ball and bring it all the way back to our goal and pass it over to our goalkeeper. Then we need to take the throw with our goalkeeper, get the goal back with the goalkeeper still in our control, and then dribble it all the way down the field to score with the goalkeeper, which was actually kind of annoying. Playing through this game a second time also led to some pretty weird moments, like learning that some characters really don't like it if you ignore their requests to play. And there's actually a little bit of unique content you can get if you get back to the points where your mom tells you to wait or return by a certain time. Turns out there's a path for being a good kid instead of staying out way past your curfew as well. I couldn't really find a way to not get wet during the wedding section of the game though, and this time Mom got so mad that she cut our friend in the back in half. And that leads to another pretty funny moment where even if we completely ignore the balloon in the wedding and just watch the football game on the TV, eventually someone will go ahead and pop the balloon and we'll get the blame for it. They can't stop me from dancing on them though. I mean, I'm hitting that. Finally, it's time to return to the actual reason we've played this far into the game a second time and get the second soccer minigame in. Our first achievement is Auto Goal for scoring an own goal, which in this game is worth 2 points, which is pretty important actually. I would say the most difficult achievement in this game is Jugamos Como for losing the match by 15 goals. Now, with own goals being worth a total of 2 points each, we only need to score 8 times on ourselves. Which seems like it would be easy, but our goalie sometimes doesn't really want to work with the team. He actually kind of wants to stop the ball from going in, so he makes things a little bit more challenging, but eventually we get it. Our final achievement is called Despelote for kicking a ball outside of the stadium in the top-down view after we finish the big match. You know, in this area where I said there was nothing to do. Oops. But now we've done everything in Despelote. But how did we do? Despelote is another pretty short game, clocking in at just under 4 hours playtime for me, though it could definitely be done quicker if you made sure to get all of the achievements related to the second football match all at once instead of playing through the game twice, or if you just backed up your save. This game was super interesting. It's not like anything else that I've ever played. Graphically, like I mentioned, it's closest to Return of the Obra Dinn, and story-wise, I think it's actually closest to Venba for me, maybe? Those are both games that I've checked out on the channel, so if you're interested in either of those, you can feel free to check them out. My main comparison to Venba is just that this is a game about something that I had essentially no experience with whatsoever. I don't really know anything about Ecuador, and it was super interesting to get this kind of first-person account of what it was like living in Ecuador during these hard times, but you had something to really look forward to and something to give you a little bit of hope. Also, apparently I did a little Googling and there was like a volcano that erupted in Ecuador in 2001, so maybe, you know, follow-up game idea. Volcano Explorers, Despelote 2, catch me there day one. But as always, if you enjoyed the video, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section down below, or even if you didn't enjoy the video, if you want to make fun of me for butchering the titles of the achievements, or if I missed something in the story. There was a lot going on, a lot of side conversations. It was kind of difficult to track some of the cool side stuff that was going on. But as always, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. See you!